Yes, 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 yes. Welcome back to another edition, another episode of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third. I am the second. We are live from Coachella, California, live all over the Twitterverse, all over the universe, all over the metaverse. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today's California.com, live on today's Canada.com. I am feeling great today. I just left Yoga 6 over there in La Quinta. I am getting ready to start my yoga. So I just, went in there and met the yogi, saw how everything goes down. And I'm about to be a much more focused, more harnessed inner individual. Let me bring in my main man, as he is each and every single day on the show, live from Texas. Mo Murphy, what's going on, boss? How you doing?
What's good, bro? I'm all good.
Yeah, I'm feeling good too, man. You got your Ohio State hat on right there. I got my this is the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and this is their secondary logo. Now, this is the minor league hockey team, and the first logo is the one that you didn't really like. You said was trash. I like this one though. This is a pretty good secondary logo for the team. What do you think?
No, but all right.
It's all good. Mo Murphy. So yeah, man, we didn't get into all the NFL teams yet, all the NFL games yet. We always like to break them all down. But we have a few more that we need to talk about right now. Now there were a couple of games that we're going to really want to focus in on this coming Sunday, but we're going to talk about those on Friday. Now let's break down some of these games that we didn't get to. We did not get to the Dolphins versus the Giants. Now the Dolphins came out and they did their thing. Tua has won 5 games in a row, and he's looked pretty good ever since the trade deadline. And all the Deshaun Watson rumors just quieted down. We've seen Tua step up and make plays, and he's been very consistent in what he's been able to do for this Dolphins team. And the defense has stepped up quietly, and they've ripped off 5 straight, even though they're not in the playoff race right now. They're in the hunt, and they're in the bottom of the hunt, but they're still in the hunt. Tua, came out with 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jalen Waddle, 9 catches for 90 yards. But on the other side, the Giants didn't have their guy, Danny Dimes. They had to go out there with Mike Glennon because Danny's injured, and he threw an interception. But it looked pedestrian from the beginning for the Giants. We knew that they weren't going to be that competitive, especially without Daniel Jones. But I'm impressed with what the Dolphins have been able to do this last 5 weeks. What do you think about the Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, so I jumped on this a few weeks ago. It was on CU Sunday, I think, that we do over there on Off the Ball Network. But I told people a few weeks ago that the Dolphins are going to finish with 8 to 9 wins. I looked at the rest of their schedule. I looked at how good their roster is. They do have a good team at the end of the day. And I believe in Tua. I mean, every quarterback isn't going to be great. And that's how everybody evaluates quarterbacks is, well, what's their floor? What's their ceiling? How great can they be? Who's the great, the GOAT that you could compare them to? Are they Tom Brady? Are they Aaron Rodgers? Are they more Mahomes-like? And so that's not a fair evaluation for Tua. Sometimes it's just guys who are just going to be good quarterbacks for a long time. Not Hall of Famers, but that's what everybody wants. Everybody is not satisfied with anything less than a Hall of Fame quarterback. But the Miami Dolphins have turned it around. They beat teams they should beat. They started off slow, and it's probably going to come back and bite them in the butt. I don't expect them to make the playoffs. They could slip in there if they get to that 9-8, but 8-9, I don't think cuts it. Possibly in the AFC, we'll have to see for the rest of the season. But I jumped on this a few weeks ago. I was high on the Dolphins finishing out strong. Tua started looking good. And it's kind of crazy because like Joe Burrow's starting to, he kind of plateaued. Now he's fizzling out. I'm not saying that, but for the rest of the year so far, he started off hot. Jamar Chase started off hot. That offense was on fire. You're not hearing about that as much. And the Tua haters are kind of stepping back. Ain't saying too much. They're quiet. They were all loud. When Tua was playing bad, Tua was playing good. Now everybody quiet. So, I just get to sit back and just watch the development of Tua because if they could get Deshaun Watson.
You still go and get Deshaun.
But we're talking about a top 5 quarterback here. Like we're talking about the last time we seen him play, he was a top 5 quarterback. There is a difference. If I could go get a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, if I could go get a superstar quarterback, I go get him. But I also, with the way Tua's playing and the way he's developing, I have a price now, and I don't overpay for Deshaun Watson. So that's something we're going to have to pay attention to when we talk about Miami in the offseason.
Now we look at the Dolphins. Now they play the Jets, they play the Saints, they play the Titans, who might not have Derrick Henry back, and then they play the Patriots. If they go 3 out of 4, do you see them getting into the playoffs?
No, because that puts them at 8 and 9. So
that'll put them at 9.
Oh, 9 and 8.
9 and 8.
It's possible. I think to secure your playoff spot, you got to win out. Tough to say they need to win out with Tennessee. Julio's coming back. A.J. Brown should be back by the time they see Tennessee. Possibly Derrick Henry. We don't know, though, and I wouldn't expect much from him on if that's his first game back.
Mm-hmm.
New England, they've already beat New England, but this isn't the same New England team that they played in the opening week. But at the same time, they beat them in New England. It will be in Miami. They have favorable matchups. Like you said, I think they could beat the Jets, or I think they will beat the Jets. I think they will beat the Saints, especially they have a bye week, so they get to regroup. Anybody who's dinged up will be ready for, that playoff push at the end of the season. So it's favorable. I for sure say they win 2 out of their last 4, but they could win 3, but to ask them to, playoffs on the line, you have to beat Tennessee. Yeah. And if that last playoff spot is on the line last week of the season, Patriots might be fighting for that number 1 seed. So it might be a matchup where you're fighting. Both teams are fighting for something. You're fighting for a playoff spot. Patriots want that first round bye. So it's a tough ask. But like I said, them starting off slow is what's going to bite them in the butt. But at the same time, this is the Dolphins team that's playing now that we expected to see from the start of the season, coming off strong off of their 10-6 season last year.
Yeah, and maybe they don't make the playoffs, even if they do win 3 out of 4. Even if they win out, they still need a couple other teams to lose.
I like their chances if they win out, though.
If they win out, they're not get that 7th spot.
I like their chances at 10-7, but at the same time, are you disappointed? Like you went 10-6 last year, then you would go 10-7. So I guess you took a half a game back because that extra game. So you kind of stayed stagnant, but with that slow start, are you disappointed with a 10-7 season and just missing the playoffs? You know what I'm saying? Now are you firing Brian Flores if he wins out and goes 10?
I think you got to keep. Yeah, I think you got to keep Flores, and I think that is something that is building blocks for next season.
That's a heck of a 2 years though. You go 10-6, miss the playoffs. You go 10-7 the first time we have a 17-game season, miss the playoffs. So you're talking about a coach. 10-6 is a good record. If you go 10-6, 16-game season, that is a good record. That's a good team, not a great team. Yeah, that's a good
team. Should be a playoff team with a 10-6 record.
10-7 is pretty much about the same. 11-6, however you want to look at it, but so 10-7 is about the same. So you had 2 good seasons, winning seasons. You were a good team and still didn't make the playoffs. That's a heck of a story for a head coach, but that's also a heck of a predicament if he's on the hot seat. I don't think he should be. Right now, Tua was hurt a few games this year. You never really had your starting quarterback. You expected Jacoby Brissett, but that is a heck of a 2 seasons to go 10-6, 10-7, and miss the playoff both years.
Man, let my man keep his job. All right, let's talk.
He should. I think he should.
I hope he should. I hope he does too. All right, let's talk about the Bucs and the Falcons. The Bucs, they continue to keep rolling. The Bucs they're just such a good team. And this team is 9-3 right now. They beat the Falcons 30-17. Brady had a typical Brady game, 368 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Chris Godwin, had 15 catches for 143 yards. He set the single record for the most catches in a single game by a Buccaneers receiver. And he was very humble when he was talking about it. But you think about, all the great receivers they have on the team right now and the great tight ends they have on the team right now. Just a great, accomplishment for a guy like that. And even Mike Evans had 7 catches for 99 yards. But the Buccaneers continue to look like the class of the NFC. And no matter what teams are out there, like the Cardinals or the Cowboys or the Packers, the Buccaneers just feel like they are just ready to make another run. And on the flip side, the Falcons, another mediocre season for the Falcons. Just the Falcons are who they were. They are who they always been. And Matt Ryan, he continues to look like Matt Ryan. He has flashes of greatness, but he's just not the quarterback that's going to win them the Super Bowl. But let's talk about the Buccaneers. Are the Buccaneers, are they primed to make it to another Super Bowl? And is Tom Brady your current MVP?
Yes, Tom Brady is my current MVP. I'm rocking
mine too.
I'm rocking with my preseason pick for MVP, which was Tom Brady.
Wow.
Everybody kind of looked at me crazy, like, man, he's old. I'm like, that plays into the narrative of an MVP. Unless he dips off a cliff, he's going to be in that race. And the older he is, it's kind of the LeBron James syndrome, right? The older he is, the more that he does at his age, the more impressive it is than a guy doing it in his prime that you expect it from. Like, we're waiting on the day for Tom Brady to just fall off a cliff, and it just never looks like it's going to happen. Father Time hasn't really caught up with him. But, yes, he is my front runner for MVP. I think he's one or two games really away from securing it. Do you really see, like, the question you have to ask yourself, do you really see Tom Brady playing that bad? Or do you see somebody having so many outstanding performances that it takes Tom Brady out of the run? The only other guy I think that's really in there with him is Aaron Rodgers. And so I think it's a two-headed race. Kyler Murray's injuries is kind of what killed his MVP potential. He could finish out strong and still be in the hunt, but he's missed too many games, in my opinion, especially when Brady hasn't missed a game. Rodgers has only missed, one game due to COVID. So you're talking about guys who have played 16, 17 games. So, yeah, he is my front runner. In the Bucs, you can't bet against Brady, right? So you want to say they got to be the favorite, but if there is a team that I think it could be a Packers Bucs NFC Championship again, but it's just one of those, like, you don't want to go out there on the limb and say, like, yeah, I'm picking the Cardinals with a young coach, a young quarterback, or I'm picking the Packers when they just played it out, last year. So, yeah, I think they got to be the favorite, or at least 1A and 1B along with the Green Bay Packers to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, and just the way that they're just a well-oiled machine, and the way that Tom Brady has his guys in there, like Gronkowski, and Gronkowski does, he does an amazing job of catching balls and catching touchdown passes. But the one thing that he does the best, I believe, is his blocking and just his knowledge of the game and knowledge of what kind of protections they need to have, or what kind of coverages they're running out there. And then you got a guy like Leonard Fournette, who's not afraid to pick up some of those blitzes. And then you just got guys everywhere. I mean, you got Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, you got OJ Howard, you got Brate, you just got guys all Mike Evans. So as long as Tom Brady has those weapons, and as long as Tom Brady is staying upright, I just feel like this team is a well-oiled machine. They're ready to go. And yeah, I look at the Packers as well. Let's talk about some other teams. Another team in the NFC that was, once considered earlier in the season, they were going to be considered a favorite, but now they had a 3-game losing streak. And one of those losses came after a bye week, when teams typically have, those 2 weeks to prepare for that game, and they usually come out well prepared. They come out. A lot of the good teams come off the bye and they win those games. The Rams like trash off their bye, so now they come out and they play against the Jaguars. Yes, it's the Jaguars, but they come out there and they assert their dominance, 37-7. And we saw Matt Stafford get hurt earlier in that game, and Matt Stafford comes back and he delivers a pretty decent game. 295 yards for 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. They run on the back of Sony Michel, 24 carries, 121 yards for a touchdown. And, that's going to be kind of the recipe that they're going to need to moving forward if they want to get that play action running with Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford. If Sony Michel can run the ball like that, and that defense can step up and hold, teams to 7 points, although it was the Jaguars, then I feel like this team might be back. And we've seen teams like the Chiefs and other teams that, that they've struggled. They have one good performance. They put up 30-plus points, and then they come out to the media and they say, hey, we're back. The Rams were a little bit more humble. At the press conference, Sean McVay was very humble, saying, you know what? Yeah, we lost 3 in a row. It just feels good to get into the win column. We can't take any win in this league for granted. I feel like the Rams are a little bit more calm, and I feel like they're in a better place than they were a couple weeks ago. What do you feel about this Rams win, beating the Jaguars 37-7? Mo Murphy.
I mean, good teams do what they're supposed to do. They bounce back, but good teams are supposed to beat bad teams. And everybody, they made the Jaguars look like the Jaguars and the Rams look like the Rams. That's what's supposed to happen. So, yeah, you don't look too much into it, but you do give the Rams credit for winning by 30 points because you feel like they're 20 points better than the Jags. And so they made Jacksonville look as bad as they are, and the Rams looked as good as we project them to be. The only thing I give the pushback on you with is the difference with teams coming off a bye week is they typically don't play the best team in the conference, arguably, when they come off of their bye week. So I wouldn't say they looked like trash against Green Bay. They did surprise me, though. I'm with you, though. I expected them to play better early. I didn't expect a slow start and have to try and gain ground late. So I am with you, but it also was an unfortunate event that you get Green Bay. You get Aaron Rodgers and you get the Green Bay Packers after being on a 2-game lose streak, going into a bye week, and then you got to come and you got to play with a guy who knows how to prepare. No, there's never a game too big for the moment for Aaron Rodgers. He does this. This is an MVP, the former MVP from last year. If anybody does this, it's Aaron Rodgers. Outside of Tom Brady, left in the league. So I will say they just came into an unfortunate event, but they'll be fine. The NFC West looks vulnerable. San Francisco lost the game they shouldn't have, to Seattle, especially when you're making a playoff push. They ended up losing that game. So, I think they should be fine. And they have a tough matchup. They put themselves, if they don't win the division, they're going to have a tough matchup because you're either going to play the Bucs, the Packers, the Cardinals, or the Cowboys. Like you're going to play one of the other division winners. You're going to play them on the road. And so you don't want to look too far ahead because the Rams have Super Bowl hopes, and it would be a home Super Bowl. That would be back-to-back years where we watch the team in the NFC host the Super Bowl, which would be crazy. Definitely the first time that would ever happen where you see the back years where the home team plays the Super Bowl at their home stadium.
Back-to-back years?
Yeah, like that would be, we thought it was crazy and
Tampa.
Storyline amazing when they did, Brady comes to Tampa and did it last year.
Oh my God.
To see the Rams do it, like, it didn't get no more Hollywood than that. The Super Bowl is already in LA, and then you bring the LA team. You got Odell Beckham Jr., you got Jalen Ramsey, you got Von Miller. You got Matt Stafford, his first Super Bowl appearance.
Sound like a Hollywood script to me.
It would be Hollywood in Hollywood. So, and it wouldn't even matter. Who knows who would be on the other side of that? Imagine you bring in Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and
okay.
No, calm down. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see an all Hollywood Super Bowl. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
The game, though. I mean,
I mean, the Chiefs, though. The Chiefs would be a good storyline too.
I think I'd like to see if under that circumstance, like if we're going to keep it Hollywood, let's bring in the Hollywood quarterback. Let's bring in, the Hollywood wide receiver and tight end. Let's just keep superstars all over the field. Let's bring Honey Badger. Let him do, the Walk of Fame down there pre-Super Bowl, get a little workout in on the Walk of Fame or something. let's keep it Hollywood and bring in, Kansas City, who would also be playing in their third straight Super Bowl, which would also be something,
another narrative that we could add to that Super Bowl. We are Go Long Live. I am Barry Long II. He is Mo Murphy. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live all over Twitter. We are live on today'scanada.com, today'scalifornia.com. We want to thank Craig Campbell and Sage Alvarez for all the hard work that they do behind the scenes. Now, all right, so the Rams are back 37-7. They look, pretty good moving forward. They got to play the Seahawks this coming Sunday. Next Sunday. Then they're gonna play the Vikings. Then they got my Ravens and the 49ers. So it'll be interesting to see if they can win out and try to win that division. But they are currently 2 games behind the Cardinals in the NFC West. Now let's talk about another NFC West game that was really, really exciting. I'm not sure how much this is going to determine, where teams go in the playoffs picture, because both of these teams are at the bottom of their division. Both of these teams, the 49ers being 6-6 and the Seahawks being 4-8 right now. But it was an exciting game, and it was a classic NFC West Seahawks 49ers game. One of those ones that we remember like from the Legion of Boom era, just going down to the wire, back and forth. Russell Wilson trying to make a play at the end. We saw, the Seahawks were up 30-23 going into the fourth quarter. Late in the fourth quarter, they almost scored. They were making a goal line drive. Russell does a shuffle pass. They end up, fumbling the ball. 49ers get it back with a chance to drive it down. Jimmy Garoppolo brings them all the way down. Isn't able to get a touchdown and send it to overtime. And the Seahawks escape narrowly. And, just watching this game, it just made you feel like, okay, we have been very critical of Russell Wilson these past few weeks, and deservingly so. He's played not great at all. He's not played anywhere near where Russell can play. And we knew that he had the middle finger injury, and we even had a meme like this that said that's what he's doing this season. But he did play like Russell Wilson, and I was excited to see, him bounce back. But yeah, man, it was just one of those exciting games, and it was. What are your takeaways from the 49ers and the Seahawks game?
It was one of the better games played. Just like you said, down to the wire, typical NFC West matchup. Russell Wilson had played fairly rough since coming back from injury. Kind of had a bounce back game, get a little spark going. I mean, essentially, I think the Seahawks are at a point where they probably have to win out and still might not make the playoffs. So that's kind of tough. I don't really fully know their remaining schedule, but essentially they'll have to go 9-8 and they still might come short. The 49ers kind of needed that one. You're 6-6 instead of 7-5, which is all the difference where you're trying to go for that 6 or 7 seed in the playoffs. So, that does make all the difference. You really typically don't want to drop games like this when a team seems down bad. You're supposed to kick them while they're down. If you're San Francisco, I know they were missing Deebo Samuel, but they still had the run game. This is a Seahawks defense that isn't that great, very vulnerable. So, they weren't throwing the ball that well. George Kittle had a monster game, though, by the way. But they weren't feeding their outside receivers, wasn't feeding Brandon Ayuk that much. You can't tell me he's been playing amazing these past few games. You can't tell me he had a problem getting open against these Seattle corners that are pretty much probably the worst secondary in the NFL. So I was surprised that the 49ers defense gave up so much. I was surprised that Russell Wilson was able to bounce back against a 49ers team looking to make the playoffs the way that they did. DK Metcalf had a few good catches. Tyler Lockett had a pretty good game. So it was just a little bit of surprising to see the 49ers drop the ball on a game that could be very key that last week or two. This game right here is going to matter for the 49ers, whether they get into the playoffs or not. They're going to look back and be like, luckily we won these other future games, or be like, if we only had took care of business against Seattle, we'd be in. So this game is going to matter at some point because it's going to put one of these games in the near future for the 49ers as a must-win game. So that's also something to pay attention to.
Absolutely. And the NFC is just so damn competitive. And yeah, you're right. George Kittle did have a monster game. He had 9 catches for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And but Jimmy Garoppolo, now, he went 20 and 30 for 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I had a lot of friends, this past weekend we were talking, we went out and ran into a couple of 49ers fans. And I asked every single time I saw a 49ers fan, I asked them which one, Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo. And, it's pretty much up in the air with a lot of the fan base. What do you feel? Because I at this point, I'm feeling like Jimmy Garoppolo is playing well enough to say, hey, maybe you guys need to take a little bit more of a look at me, maybe a little bit more of an evaluation. Or do you think that, or am I tripping and you think Trey Lance, it's time to just go full in on Trey Lance next season?
Nah, I'm with you. I'm at the point, though, I was at the point, because I was covering the draft, doing mock drafts and stuff like that coming into the season, coming into the draft season. I don't think they should have took a quarterback at all in the first place. There were some holes that you needed to fill. You could have got a top-notch corner. You knew you were letting Richard Sherman go. You could have got a top-notch corner. You could have added another weapon. George Kittle's injury prone. You had a tight end there in Kyle Pitts that could play outside. Is Travis Kelce, essentially. You could have got Kyle Pitts. You could have got a Jamar Chase. You could have got, you could have traded back a few spots and still got a playmaker and added some draft capital as opposed to trading up. You could have traded up for and got a top-notch playmaker that's not a quarterback. I don't trust Jimmy G, but at the same time, you don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. He essentially had sat out the whole season. You hope he grasps this offense. But if Trey Lance falters, once you put Trey Lance in, Jimmy G's gone. That's just... Once Trey Lance gets the nod, whenever that may be, Jimmy G is gone. And so now you don't know who the backup quarterback is going to be. And if Trey Lance becomes a failed project, you are back to the drawing board and you have such a talented team elsewhere. I felt imagine George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon. Imagine that. Or imagine having stayed at 12.
And if Jimmy G wasn't the guy, you could go out and get the guy.
Imagine having stayed at 12 and you went ahead and went. Unfortunately, Travis Etienne had got hurt, but you ain't got Najee Harris. I know that's kind of early for a running back, but you had Elijah Mitchell's good, right? But Najee Harris would have did. If he's doing that, what do you think Najee Harris would have did behind that offensive line? Because Najee Harris had some big games in Pittsburgh with no offensive line. So you could have traded back and got a Najee Harris that has some draft capital. There were so many other things I felt like San Francisco could do to put themselves in a win now situation. You made a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. You can't tell me he's not capable. No matter what the formula is.
13 times they only threw the ball.
And that was the formula, right? But he
Yep.
was the quarterback, and in them 13 times, he didn't make enough mistakes for you to say we should have only did 12 or 11. So at the end of the day, Jimmy G can be that guy that you can win. He's a winner. He has a winning record. Kyle Shanahan has a absolutely horrible record as a head coach in San Francisco without Jimmy G. So that is something to consider. You know, everybody, they want to see, because they want to see what the kid got. They want something new. They want something fresh. They want that young quarterback that can run, that adds another dynamic to the offense. But if he can't throw that ball, if he's unsuccessful, San Francisco fans are going to be really upset because they would have wasted a good year or two of a roster that could be in win now mode had you just jumped in the draft and figured out how can we win now and what's our biggest hole, because quarterback was not their biggest problem. Outside of Jimmy G staying healthy,
that's true.
Not their biggest problem. They also, I mean, if that's the case, you could have traded for Sam Darnold, like for cheaper. I'm just saying, like, Sam Darnold isn't injury prone essentially. So I get the concerns about drafting Jimmy G's replacement because of his injuries, and if he does get hurt, we have a Trey Lance. But I mean, look at all the other rookie quarterbacks outside of Mac Jones, who's being coached by, like we've talked about all the time, Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels.
Did you really just say Sam Darnold though? Sam Darnold.
I'm just saying, like,
that's a cuss word. We don't say cuss words on this show.
At that point, we thought that Sam Darnold just needed to be free from the Jets. Like, prior to coming into the season, we still had hope that he would do good in another system, and he started off that way in Carolina.
He started off 4-0, man.
He fizzled out. But who's to say that Joe Brady was the right guy? They just fired him, like, you know, that to get him under. Maybe had he got with Kyle Shanahan, he would have kept it safe. He wouldn't have put him in bad predicaments. He would have had Debo Samuel, Kittle, and Ayuk to throw the ball to. He would have been able to run the ball. Like, Carolina's kind of built the same way, but I mean, at the same time, like, I think Kyle Shanahan's probably better with quarterbacks than Joe Brady would be in the NFL. The NFL is a different game than whatever credit you give him for what he did with Joe Burrow in college.
Yeah, man. All right, we got one more game to go over. We are Go Long Live. I am Barry Long II. He is Mo Murphy. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, today's California.com. Now, we had the Eagles and the Jets. Now, the Jets, they've had a rough year. They lose 17-33 to the Eagles. And the Eagles are without Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew. God bless his heart, stepped right in there and did his thing. They only had to punt on one possession. He went 20-25. Threw for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And they have Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders did his thing. He ran like a workhorse, 24. We saw 3 running backs this week kind of like really put the whole team on their back and carry. And it felt like the 1990s when I was growing up watching football, when you see a lot of teams commit to the run the way they did, the way that the Patriots committed to the run. It just felt like this week was like an old school NFL week. But Miles Sanders, 24 carries, 120 yards. And yeah, man, the Eagles just look really good. They look like a well-oiled machine behind Gardner Minshew. And Gardner Minshew, he's very humble. We always know how much controversy starts over there in Philly when they talk about backup quarterbacks. We always know that the backup quarterback is the most important player in Philadelphia, always. But I really feel like Jalen Hurts this is still his team. You see him on the sideline over there, galvanizing the troops, hyping the guys up. His presence alone, maybe not being on the field, but just being on the sideline, carries a lot of weight. But yeah, do you feel like there should be quarterback controversy in Philadelphia after this win? Because Philadelphia Eagles are only 2 games behind your Cowboys, okay? They are coming. They are creeping. And so are the Washington football team. This is still a division that is up for grabs, in my opinion, with 4 games left. Now, how do you feel about this game, and what do you feel about should there be controversy in Philadelphia?
No, there shouldn't be quarterback controversy, and I'm going to tell you why. Because there should be coaching controversy, and you should be wondering at how he's going to bounce back when Jalen Hurts comes back, because it was very simple. You handed the ball to Miles Sanders a lot. You finally gave him his amount of carries and didn't leave it up to your quarterback to be your leading rusher, your leading passer, and everything else on the offense. And look what happened. Gardner Minshew played very efficient. He played very well. Can he do that for a season? I don't know. None of us will know. We may never know. Maybe that was a good tryout for him to be competing for a starting quarterback job somewhere else.
Yes.
But it's the fact that you took a quarterback who took away the running dynamic, and now you had to feed Miles Sanders if you wanted to run the ball. And people have been, and I know a lot of Philly fans, people have been pitching for them to turn around and just hand Miles Sanders the ball all year long. But with Jalen Hurts, they do the run pass option with him keeping it because he's so dangerous with his legs. So when Jalen Hurts comes back, if there's a change in the game plan and they're not giving Miles Sanders 18 to 20 touches on top of Minshew threw the ball 25 times. He was 20 for 25, 75% completion percentage. Like he had a great completion percentage. So, and he did everything you need a quarterback to do. I think Jalen Hurts could do the same thing. It's just mighty funny that Nick Sirianni came to his senses when his quarterback dynamic of being able to run the ball. Now we have to give, Miles Sanders the ball. And that's all Philly fans have been asking for all year. That's all that made sense. And that's all that they were missing on the offensive side of the ball was actually handing the ball to their running back and giving him an opportunity instead of giving him 6 to 8 carries a game. Turn around, played off the run game, played off the play action, like you said. And so, but shout out to Gardner Minshew for getting the job done because he could have went in there and played absolutely horrible. 20 for 25, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks.
That's 80%. Put some. That's 80%.
That's a really matter of fact, it's 80%. It's a great game. Like for anybody, I don't care who it is. Yeah, that is a great game for anybody. And he hasn't played in a game in a while. He simply could have folded, right? Gardner Minshew could have played absolutely terrible. And nobody would have cared. Everybody would be like, "Well,
he's such a likable guy. Like he's just so like different. He's so weird. Like he's so eclectic.
And the way he dresses.
Yeah,
he's in a flyboy outfit like he was in Top Gun or something.
Yeah. He's just a different dude, man.
That moment with his dad was, that was one of those man, that's what's up, bro. Like his dad was proud of him. He was kind of lost for words. Just had a lot of adrenaline and just didn't know how to celebrate with his dad. Just one of those moments, like. I know what you mean. But I do think watch out because I think Gardner Minshew has never been put in the greatest positions to succeed, but he could be a guy that gets brought in somewhere else and create some quarterback controversy because I do think, and I might be all by myself, I think Gardner Minshew could be a starting quarterback in this league. Will he be great? No, but look at some of the quarterbacks that were starting. Cam Newton is a starting quarterback in this league. Sam Darnold was a starting quarterback in this league up until he got hurt. Baker Mayfield is a starting quarterback in this league.
And should be.
Let's be honest. Like this, Big Ben and Tombstone is a starting quarterback in this league. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away from Big Ben as a great career, as a Hall of Fame quarterback, if he makes it, controversies, whatever. But as a player on the field, he was a Hall of Fame quarterback. But he's playing in a tombstone right now. Ready to say rest in peace to Big Ben's career, and he's a starting quarterback. Danny Dimes is a starting quarterback. I'm not saying I think Danny Dimes probably is better than Gardner Minshew, but to say that he couldn't give some of those guys at the bottom of the barrel starting quarterbacks a run for their money, I just wouldn't be able to say that. Jared Goff, the one that everybody hates and says is absolutely is a starting quarterback. So if we want to go that route and we want to go to the absolutely, he stinks. People think Jared Goff stinks. So if you think Gardner Minshew would stink any worse than some of these starting quarterbacks, then I can't agree with you. I think he is a starting quarterback, or at least is a guy where if they brought Gardner Minshew in, and I'm not a top tier quarterback, I'm a guy whose job could be up for grabs. I am a little nervous with him there because now I know I got to be on my A game every day, or he could beat me out in a quarterback controversy, aka Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, and I really do like Gardner Minshew. And man, I didn't even think about that. He might fit in Washington. But it's I believe I root for Gardner Minshew. I believe that he's a starting quarterback in this league too, and I can't wait to see him get his opportunity. All right, man. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate all the love that we've been getting on Twitter and all over Facebook. We are going to come back tomorrow. We will break down the Thursday night matchup that we have tomorrow night. And we'll talk about some of these weekend matchups also. Real quick, Mo Murphy, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Up in Flames Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Mo_Cheese15 on Twitter, Instagram. And make sure you go to offtheballnetwork.com for all your sports needs and entertainment.
And I'm on Twitter at Radio Barry Long. I'm on IG at BarryLong_2. Remember, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and you're capable of doing anything, so go out and do it. We'll holler at y'all tomorrow. Peace.